It was same day,
Yes.
and he was walking around and he saw this woman, or no, he saw these people that wanted to come out. They were under a tree, and they wanted to come out into the world, and so he dug a hole and he started bringing them out, and then they introduced them into the world, and he kept pulling them out, and then one woman got stuck because she was pregnant, and so he couldn't. And then he finally quit, and that's why there's not that many Kiowas today, because she got stuck and they couldn't.
In the knothole of the tree.
In the knothole of the tree. My name is Eugene Louis Stumbling Bear. I'm a Kiowa from Wichita, Kansas, and I'm married to this young lady over here to my left.
Hi, my name is Lynn Stumbling Bear. I'm a Chickasaw, and I live with this beautiful human being over here.
Well, especially in Kansas, because a lot of people, even people that live in the area, didn't realize that there was a big, that much Native American influence in the beginning of the Kansas. And Kansas has been influenced because a lot of towns are named after Native Americans and Native American names, and this was a big crossing point as far as the country, because there was cattle trails that went through here. They built forts for those to help protect people, but then it was crisscrossed by all kinds of Native people.
I enjoy this area because when I was a young person, I lived in the oil fields of West Texas, which was the Llano Estacado, which means State Plains. It was flat. There's a beauty in the flatness. There's also the need to be cautious. It's where I live.
Yeah.
Actually, even today, there are around 350 to 400 Chickasaws in the state of Kansas, which is small compared to like Oklahoma's just covered with the Indians.
Mm-hmm.
That it was, that went, well, like most land in the United States, it was once owned by natives, and maybe for them to have the same kind of respect for the land as the natives did.
Which was what?
Was replace what you take out and leave it the way you found it, But a lot of people don't do that anymore because they'll go in and cut trees down and do this and that and use all kinds. As I get older, I think about when I'm gone, what's the land gonna be like, 10, 20, 30 years down the line? And is it still gonna be here? Tribe-wise, I was related to Chief Two Hatchet
Okay,
and Kicking Bird, Chief
Okay.
Kicking Bird.
okay.
And they were my, I guess you would say cousins. They were my dad's cousins, so my grandfather's cousins. So, we're in Indian way. If you have cousins,
It's your brother.
they're your
It's
brothers
sister.
and sisters. So you have a family of 20 or 30. Because the Kiowa way, if your brother dies in battle, the way is you take his family in, and you take them all in as your own. So you could have an extended family of, 20, 30 people, but that's just the way the tribe was. And because of their nomadic, the way they moved all over the country, I would see that would be a good way to do it. Okay, well, my tribe originated from Canada. My people were nomadic and they followed the buffalo. And see, like my name is Stumbling Bear. A lot of names and the chief's names were after bears. There's Black Bear and there's even a White Bear. So they had to be around Canada to get that name, to see that White Bear. And my tribe, as far as like the bear, we kind of pay a lot of respect to the bear. We don't eat bear meat. We don't wear the fur or any claws or anything. We don't. That's considered a bad omen. And there was another group, and there was one of the origin stories was that there was an argument over a piece of buffalo, and the two groups somebody didn't want to share and this and that. So one group stayed up there and the rest of the group migrated south. And it is one of the stories I heard was that Red Cloud, who was a great Sioux war chief, was part Kiowa because his mother
Pretty Necklace.
was a Kiowa. And then she was one that stayed and married into the tribe.
We came from out of the west, and we were mound builders. And if we wound up over around Tupelo, Mississippi, and there is a story about the migration. It was two brothers, Choctaw and Chickasaw. And every evening they would put a stick in the ground, and they had a white dog, a large white dog with them, and it would have been Opie Toby, white dog. So, whichever direction that the staff leaned was the direction that they went. And then they would live there for a while until one or the other needed to do this again and see, do we move on or do we stay here? Because they were looking for the staff to stay straight. At some point, they crossed the Mississippi. They had a disagreement, and they split, and the Chickasaws went north, and the Choctaw went south. Our language is so close that you can, it's not exactly the same, but you can understand. And it is a Muskogean language. So, anyway, they're out there and around Mississippi and the Great Mounds out there is where the Chickasaws were. Choctaws went south. But in traveling from the west, more likely than not, they would have stopped at Etzanoa. Or in that general area as part of the trek, because of the pathway that would have led from the west there. And I was always impressed. I kept thinking as a younger person, I said, you know, our regalia from way back. I was looking at that and I was thinking, dang, that sure does look Mayan and Aztec. And you know what? It probably was. Because humans don't stay in one place. We have the wanderlust, I think, built into almost every person. Back during the Civil War, there was a group of Chickasaws who left the Chickasaw Nation. Chickasaw Nation and Choctaw Nation are very closely related, and so it's from down around Chickasha, Oklahoma, to about midway between Chickasha, Oklahoma, and the Arkansas state line is the division. Fortunately, the I-35 runs right smack through us, so our leaders have done well in bringing us from basically being $87,000 in the bank in probably 89 or 90 to a lot of money. We are the second largest employer in the state of Oklahoma. How they got to Kansas was during the Civil War, and there was a group of around 75 to 100 families that left the Chickasaw Nation because Chickasaws held slaves. They left, they didn't want any part of being Confederate. So they came to Kansas, which was a free state at that point, and settled up around Larned. There are some vestiges of those families still there, but most of them after the Civil War migrated back.
Francis and Irene Stumbling Bear.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a riverfront room. It was done by Rick Reagan, who dedicated that to my mother. Because actually my brother helped him paint the mural, my younger brother.
Now, there was a wonderful photo of your father shaking hands with Dwight D. Eisenhower. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that him and Boeing built a plane called the Scout, and it was took pictures and stuff. It was an old prop, two-man prop airplane, and they had the name on the front, and Eisenhower's name came and was touring the plane, I guess, and it happened to photo op, or the Native American connection happened to pick him shaking the president's hand. back in the 90s, I carried the Olympic torch. Well, I had danced, but I had my regalia. I guess we didn't need to really come up with anything real fast, but I had it. I carried the torch down the river, and when the keeper was here then, it was a nice.
And you even stood up in was it a canoe?
Yeah. Yeah, all the.
That had to have been exciting.
Yeah, because, you know, there's another thing about Indians, and you know they think all Indians rode canoes, but you know my tribe, we very seldom rode in any kind of boats. But yeah, it was pretty exciting because they were all worried about me falling in the river, which I was too, because that flame, the Olympic flame, is not supposed to go out. But yeah. I think he would be proud of it because some of the stories that I've told came from him through my grandfather and my dad. So, you know, it just goes, and my mother also. But it just, like, you know, just to me, once again, carry on the Kiowa tradition because it was oral tradition. Nothing, a lot of stuff wasn't written down. And you'd learn stories and how to do things and this and that, how the way was, and you know, funny stories and sometimes not so funny stories, but